People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good evening. I hope you're all well and safe. I hope you've all better yet had a positive end to the week on Friday. You know, weekends are a scam in my opinion, and that's why we should all pursue our dreams, because, you know, Monday to Friday, you know, 2 days off, it seems like a scam. And even that, is it really 2 days? Because like a lot of you lot got kids, a lot of you lot got, you know, you got to do some duties that you don't have time to do in the week. Sunday, you probably got to prepare dinner again. You've got to prepare for Monday, so it's not exactly 2 days. But, you know, for us, Monday is deadline day. It needs to happen. And I think Arsenal have spoken a lot. They've talked a lot of good games, so they need to bring in 2 midfielders minimum. You know, we've had a decent summer. You've brought in Gabriel, you've brought in Willian, amongst others. Well, you know, Marie, Cedric Suarez, these were always going to happen. Aubameyang has signed a new deal to go with Bukayo Saka. You bring in Aura and or Partey, or these 2 profiles, if not the players, then it's a positive summer for me. Until you bring those players in, I can't be positive about top 4 and the rest of it, because I don't believe in our midfield. Our defence is well documented as making mistakes, even though they're improving. Our midfield is a big point. You get a better midfield that can protect the defence. You know, you keep some clean sheets that you shouldn't have probably, and you help protect, you know. You get some better midfielders that can go the other way in the opponent's half. Attack is a form of defence, you know. And it's not just for these players to change it. It's down to Arteta's coaching as well, defensively and offensively. But I want players that want to break play down early, which Partey can do, along with, you know, pressing from the front. I want people that can break the lines, that want to dictate tempo and want the ball each and every time in difficult situations, like I believe Aura is. He's not perfect. He's got a lot of development. If you've been watching Lyon for the last couple of years, especially last year, you would know that he's probably not at a level the fans are saying he's at. He's got that potential, and that's why I want him. Sort of thing. I don't think the club helped themselves with their language though. Big up Mertesacker and the youth people, because they're moving people on, bringing people in. But when you hear from last year, we know we've needed to move people on. When you've heard we need to be creative in the market, we're ready to adapt in a couple of scenarios. We're trying to bring players in. The language of the club has been very bullish in relation to transfers. And when you compound the fact, as I said, the new contracts for Bukayo Saka and Aubameyang, Arteta's been nothing but positive since he's come here, and we're all buying into what he's on. Obviously, the Community Shield and the FA Cup wins. This is all sort of a cocktail to, I believe, I wouldn't say false confidence, but, you know, Monday brought a lot of fans back to reality. But I'd say it makes a positive cocktail when we've got a lot of work to do, and that positive cocktail can be spilt if you don't back your chat. You know, we've heard we're ready to adapt, ready to do this. The writing's on the wall, you know. I hear Saliba's going out alone. I see Torreira going. I see Guendouzi linked. You better be. I have to believe they're bringing in midfielders with all of this in mind. But until I see it, I can't believe it. And the club isn't going to have a leg to stand on, and specific people want, because they've wrote checks that potentially, you know, they've wrote verbal checks that potentially they can't physically cash people, which is going to put them in some serious issues. Arteta himself has said the final days of the transfer market are a crucial moment in Arsenal's season. He said, it's a crucial moment. It defines the people, players, the balance and the quality you're probably going to have for the rest of the season. We need to make some decisions in the next 3 days. Everything has been delayed so much, but not only for us, but every team. We try to make the best possible decisions, and at the end, whatever we have, we go for it fully convinced and prepared for the season. And, you know, if we don't sign any players, it is what it is, you know. I do think there's enough in that team to make more of a meal of top 4. I think they'll fall short, but more of a meal. You know, we should have been in the talking with Chelsea and United with nicking Leicester's place. You know, as much as I talk about the midfield and how poor our defenders were and this and that, you know, I hate the word if, but the amount of draws we had, the amount of defeats away from home, the amount of dropping silly points, conceding when we've taken the lead, you know, not killing off games. These are things that can all be fixed in-house, and all can be fixed with the existing players, in theory giving us more of a push at top 4. But we've got to remember, with the exception of a couple, everybody else is strengthened. I know United still ain't brought in the winger and what, but they brought in Van der Beek, and there might be one more name, I could be wrong. Spurs, you know, still playing a bit shaky, but they've brought in a backup striker. They've brought in Bell. They've brought in Doherty and Højbjerg. So they've got better tools, whether you believe them or not. City have made some moves. Chelsea's well documented the people they've brought into their club. Liverpool haven't done much, but what they have done is bring in quality like Thiago. And Arsenal, we can't afford not to improve the team. Like, you know, you're hearing Saliba's going out on loan. I guess we're retaining faith in our defenders, and maybe Arteta, watching him closely and training, is not convinced. But we need to bring players in. Like I said, we can make more of a meal of it, but honestly, you know, we look at our midfield, it's not good enough to get top 4. It's not good enough to dominate games and relieve pressure. It's not good enough to create enough attacking situations. It's not good enough to protect our defence, you know. And that's what we need to go upon. If you want to, you need to bring in players. It's that simple. I don't think any Arsenal fan is asking for the world, really. We known for years, specifically last year, we needed to bring in a midfielder or two. So I hope Aura and Partey are the top targets. But there's a whole dossier and scouting reports of Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, Plan E targets. Because if you don't get Partey and Aura now, to a fan, we might be, and the club knows something else, we might have backups. But even if you go for backup targets now, if I'm the club that owns this player you want as a backup target, and I'm remaining attentive to what Arsenal is doing, I'm going to say, what? For argument's sake, you thought you was paying 20 million. I want 35. I know you're desperate. It's Monday in a couple of days. You want the player, you pay the money. If not, F off. I keep my player. He'll get sold in 6 months or a year from now for the same P's or more. It is what it is. That's the dangerous game we're playing. When people know your position and they know we've struggled to move players on, they know that we have to be creative in the market. So it's time for people to pull it out. And like he said, if the window shuts, it is what it is. You have to move with what you have. But he also said, it is because we can't do no more. When asked if no players can come in, he said, we are trying to give our maximum. We are maximising our resources with full support from the owners as well with what we are trying to achieve. It's whether we can do it or not. And we've also been linked with Jorginho. And he also said, after to achieve it or not, sometimes in a deal, a lot of things can happen. You have 3 or 4 parties that have to be involved, but we are trying our best. I'm really happy the way this link and communication is flowing at the moment. So Arteta saying it, basically the board on the club are backing him. They're in dialogue. So I hope there's something. And I get that. When dealing with a transfer, there's multiple internal and external parties. You've got to deal with the agents and the many people that claim to be agents and the many middlemen and all of these sort of things. Within your club, you've got to work with however many people. There's also the player himself. There's so much to do. Transfers are not easy, but I don't think the club have a leg to stand on if they don't address all areas. Like I said, it's not going to be a perfect summer. We're not going to move off every player we need to move on. We're not going to address every area. There's still question marks. Lacazette's form is great, but his contract, if he doesn't sign Plan B striker, do you get it? Left back, Kolasinac is still here on paper. Tierney has injury issues. Saka and Maitland, Maitland now is ideally you want him at right back. Saka ideally you want him in the further forward positions. Both can fill in. But, do we need a backup left back? I believe in Lennon. I think fans need to get off his back. But, many people, including legend Tony Adams, question as to whether he's a top 6/4 goalkeeper. This season, will we be saying the same things we're saying about Leno? I don't know. So there are other question marks around the team or just general talking points. But for me, we need to fix the priorities, and that's the spine. You've got Leno, he's a good keeper. You've got Gabriel now. Build a defence that can actually protect Leno, because I don't want to see him. It's all fun and games seeing him up there for shot saves and stuff. It's gassed. I love my keeper doing that. But any top 6 keeper that's up there or first on the list or whatever, you're in problems, because saves are not correlated. If you look at it, and it's not his fault, the saves and the clean sheets are not correlated. Defence wins you titles. We need to pattern that. Since Leno's come in, he's not had a competent defence. And with Gabriel, with Tierney, with Leno, with Maitland-Niles for me, you can get a defence within the next 3 years. You can be together for a long time. David Luiz will do it in the short term, but you've got Saliba to come into it. And I think that goes into fixing the spine of the team, the midfield. Midfield is crucial. You look at our midfield, it's not exactly inspiring. So again, we need to bring players in. I'll shut my mouth until the window is done, because I don't know what I don't know or not know what the club is doing, if that makes sense. So I'm prepared to bite my tongue. But again, there's no excuses for Arteta, there's no excuses for Edu, there's no excuses for the players really if we fail to get top 4, regardless of if the players come in or not, and if we don't bring in the players. And to be fair, that one there is specifically at Edu and Arteta, because they've spoken a good game, they've got more say in the transfers. You've had the summer to move, You've had the months before the window shut, even with the lockdown period. Obviously there's a lot to deal with COVID and whatnot, and Arteta himself had COVID. But on the Zoom calls, was you not talking about targets? You fail to plan, you plan to fail, and I do think there is a plan. As a fan, I don't know it, so I'm prepared to shut my mouth, obviously, until Monday. So we'll have to see what happens. Surely a midfielder's got to come in, people, because you let Torreira go up. Whether you like him or not, and Guendouzi's linked, we're weak in midfield in terms of bodies. What's going to happen? Ozil isn't going to play in the pivot, but he's frozen out. So if we just look at the body in midfield, we're losing bodies. So surely somebody's got to come into this club. Whether somebody actually does or not, I don't personally know, people. That's just me appealing to the logic of the Arsenal boardroom and whatnot. Hopefully it happens. If we fail to bring players in, you can't, and we don't get top 4, you can't really be shocked, because we've been knowing the issues for a while now. So, you know, like Arteta said, it's vital, and Arteta's hidden no secret on bringing in players. His language has been a bit coy in recent days, but is what it is. Hopefully there's some positive news, but we'll have to see, man. On that note, DG, I'm out. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe.